Hi, Allie.
Hey, Kirsten. Hey, Thanksters.
Hey, Thanksters.
Welcome back to another episode of
Thank you so much.
This is a fun one today.
Yeah. We are doing our first interview. So, we're starting to do some interviews. And this one is something that neither of us know anything about. And so we wanted to know.
And we're also at the age where everybody is having children.
Yeah. And yeah, we're in our early 30s, and a lot of people have had kids by now or are thinking about it, and the biological clock be ticking, and we're just curious.
I do you want kids?
Yeah, I think so, but I also, the older I get, the more I think about the biological clock and is it going to work for me, and financially I can't right now. So I don't know. I mean, I want kids, I guess. I always imagined my life with kids, but I right now I don't. So, but do you?
I gotta say I don't want kids. I'm not completely against it. I think if it was like an accident and I was financially stable enough, I might just have it. But I don't think I don't see myself like trying to have kids at any point in my life. But I might change my mind. I mean, I don't want to say I'm never having them, but I've never imagined that for myself.
Why not?
I think it started with just being scared of pregnancy and birthing in general.
Yeah.
Like I think the idea of being a mom isn't super crazy to me, but the idea of birthing something out of my body seems really crazy.
It's
and
terrifying.
I just don't know if I want to put myself through that. I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Because that is like a traumatic thing that happens. I don't care what anyone says.
It is.
And I just don't really want to choose that for myself. I also like my freedom. I'm not financially stable at all, even for myself.
Yeah, same.
So how on earth would I be able to have a kid and like bring it into that environment? I also am worried about global warming and the world, and it's like, what's the point?
Yeah, there's so many kids that need to be adopted too, that it's like, to bring somebody new, it's a little bit selfish.
It is selfish, but I get it. I mean, I understand why you'd want your own kid.
Yeah.
But I also, if I do anything, like my ideal situation would be to either adopt, like I'd have enough money and I wouldn't be hurting, adopt, or do a surrogate.
Okay. Yeah.
That would be my ideal situation.
but that requires money.
It requires money, so
yeah,
maybe one day.
Yeah, I mean, I think I always imagined my life with kids just because it's like a biological thing, and you think about the partner that you end up with and raising the child together and like what you would want to teach the children and things like that. But I also like the closer to the age I get, the more I'm like, am I cut out for this?
Yeah. I mean, it is a big responsibility, and you have to be, I think you have to be ready, and I'm scared that if I force having a kid when I'm not ready or I don't really want to, I'm scared I'll resent that kid.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's kind of deep, but
no, I mean, I
resent
get that.
my kid for like.
I listened to a podcast recently about that. It was like the mother. I was like, I never wanted to be a mother, and I'm just raising my daughter now, and I love her, but I don't want to be a mom. I don't want this.
I feel that, and I every time like my dog, like my dog had diarrhea the other night for like 4 days straight, and he had to go outside every 2 hours.
Damn.
So even when we're sleeping, every 2 hours he'd start crying.
And that's how it is with a fucking
That's how it is with a kid, except for like a 6-week period or more. And I'm just thinking, I am so grumpy when I don't get my sleep.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, I don't resent him for it. I feel this like need of, I have to take care of
Yeah.
him. So
Like the instinct comes
yeah,
in.
I'm just like, we got to do what we got to do.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Let's go. Let's go outside again.
Yeah.
Let me clean up your nasty
poop. Yeah.
Liquid poop.
Yeah.
I had to wipe his butt.
And
like,
that's just like a baby.
You
yeah.
know, and I just don't know if I'm cut out for it.
That's how I feel too. But I don't know. I think it's funny. I was talking to my mom just right before this. She called me, and my brother and his girlfriend are engaged now, and she was talking about how she wants them to. She's like, "Oh, I hope they have kids." And I talked to them about it. I don't think they're gonna have kids, and I was like, "But I think I might, Mom." And yeah, but it is like weird saying that, and I still feel like I'm a 22-year-old in college. Like,
Yeah.
I don't feel like
I'm not an adult.
Yeah.
I can't raise another human.
Yeah.
I just don't feel like I'm ready for that right now. Will I ever be ready for it? I don't know.
Who knows?
You know?
But you can have kids like in your 40s now.
You can. A lot of people are doing that.
Modern medicine has been able to do it. But anyway, we wanted to know about pregnancy and childbirth and that process. And so what we did for this episode is we're going to do another two-parter for you guys.
This
because
is all about childbirth.
Yeah, we have childbirth and pregnancy. Next episode, we interview two people that we know that have had children as a more like anecdotal experience. But this episode is on a pregnancy expert.
So we ended up having a nice conversation with my friend Christine. We went to high school together.
Mm-hmm.
And we end up talking to her all about pregnancy, the placenta, and just her experiences. So
yeah, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
My name is Christine, and I am a doula, childbirth educator, student midwife based out of West Virginia. And I'm just really excited to hear what questions you guys have so I can share some of this knowledge. I could talk for days.
Christine is just a knowledge of wealth. She really could talk for days about this, and I love that. She was always curious about childbirth, even in high school.
Nice.
Were you curious about childbirth in high school?
No, but like I think growing up I used to play house a lot and we used to watch like these breastfeeding videos.
What?
Yeah, this is a weird anecdote. But yeah, I don't know. Like I wasn't like super into it. It was more like
Yeah, I don't remember ever really thinking about childbirth in high school, but I think it was just more like, ew, that's not for me right now.
Gross.
I don't want to get pregnant.
Ripping of the vagina.
I didn't have, but Christine always wanted, like, she knew she always wanted to travel and, quote, catch babies.
Which is like how they.
That's just what they. That's
like,
what they say. Like
somebody who would be like catching the baby as it comes out of the vajayjay.
You're literally catching a baby.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, but it was just funny.
I love that way of phrasing it though.
Me too. It's like so literal, like I just want to catch babies.
Yeah. It makes it seem like exciting, like you're receiving it.
Yeah. That's cute. But, you know, she didn't know there were so many different career pathways when it comes to birthing and helping with that. So,
but she didn't end up doing that.
No, she didn't. She did not end up doing that after high school.
And ultimately, I was not encouraged to do that by my family. I was encouraged to go to art school. So that's what I did. And I got my bachelor's in fine arts with a focus in non-toxic printmaking. And that was beautiful and wonderful. Cool. And I learned a lot about this really unique form of art that I now can't afford to do.
Yeah, that's interesting. I thought that was interesting because you never hear about parents that encourage you to go to art school.
I would think that parents are like, no, you can't, like, don't go to art school. You need to be a doctor. You need to be, you know, a lawyer or whatever. So I actually think that's pretty cool of her parents to be like, no, you have to go to art school.
Yeah. Yeah. And she got to learn a very specific skill. Like, I think if I could go back to school, I would go either for psychology or some sort of fine art, because to be able to use just a studio for free all the time whenever you want is an amazing resource.
That really is.
That would be so dope.
Yeah.
What would you go to school for if you could like start over and go back?
I don't even know. There's like nothing I really want to do, but I think I'd have to do something with like science, or I always wanted to be an archaeologist. I'd do that, but I don't really know how lucrative that is.
Yeah, I think it can be if you like discover things.
If I didn't have to go to med school, I'd be the people who do autopsies.
Forensic
scientist? I don't know. I'd be a forensic scientist. That
That
sounds good.
Yeah.
There's nothing really that I wanted to.
That's why we're making a podcast.
I want to be a podcaster when I grow up.
I want to be a podcaster who just learns about other people's careers.
We're hyperfixating here, and that's what my job is. My future job.
I mean, really.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's go into the next part of the interview.
So after getting out of school and kind of decompressing, I returned to birth work, like with my interests and stuff. And also I found myself pregnant in the last semester of college.
Mm-hmm.
It was all intentional. Like I was very ready to be a mom and all that. And that first pregnancy ended in a miscarriage. And that completely rocked my world in like a very hard way.
Yeah.
I ended up getting pregnant again a few months later, and it was still kind of a rocky beginning, but I had sought out midwives and was pursuing a home birth. And so I did. I had this incredible support system simply because I had chose home birth and had these midwives caring for me. And it was actually the first time I'd ever been like fully supported by my care providers. Mm-hmm. It was really unique because like I'd never experienced this with, you know, getting pap smears or I'd never been so fully cared for before. That was really unique. And coming out of the other side, you know, having a baby in my arms and feeling like so ready for parenthood was absolutely life-changing for me. And I was like, I want to do this for other people.
Yeah, so I love how Christine did a home birth. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes me want to do home birth if I ever happen to have a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know,
it seems way less stressful.
Yeah, well, yeah, because the first time I actually ever saw a home birth was on TV on 90 Day Fiancé.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this girl Paula was having a baby, and I think she had doulas there because these women were just rubbing her back, massaging her pelvis, like just being so soft and gentle with her.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, that's how you give birth. Like,
yeah, that's how it should
be.
Was before we had these big hospitals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think at home births, I mean, if you can afford it, I don't know how much this costs, but if you can afford a doula and a midwife to come, that's what I would do.
Honestly, it might be cheaper than the hospital fees.
No, you're probably right.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So then she talks about how when her firstborn was 9 months old, that's when she started the doula training and she was really inspired by it. And that's what started the whole thing.
What happens if, like, have you ever been at a birth where something goes wrong? What do you do?
Yeah. Typically in birth, things don't just go wrong. Like we don't get to a red flag with no yellow flags ahead of time, right? Mm-hmm. You know, as a doula, it is not my job to worry about whether things are going right or wrong. It's my job as a doula is just to support them through things as they come up and keep them informed and, you know, help them make decisions and all that. But, you know, from the care provider's perspective, a big indicator of how the labor is going is how the baby is coping with contraction. So we have mom on one side or the birthing person on one side we're monitoring them, taking their vitals, you know, watching for dehydration or fever, those sorts of things. And then on the other side, we're listening to baby. We're listening to heart tones every 30 minutes to 15 minutes. And that gives us a clue as to how the baby is coping with labor. Because at the end of the day, there's 2 people involved in this process, and both of them need to be okay. And we'll get signs from the baby that, hey, they're not coping very well. Like we listen before, during, and after contractions. So we get a full picture of what baby's going through, the most demanding part of labor, which is during a contraction. And we'll listen to hear if baby's heart rate drops. And if it does drop, how low does it get? And then how quickly does it recover? Like, it's normal when a baby's head gets squeezed, like during a contraction, that maybe you're at like 9 or 10 centimeters, you might feel a little pushy. It's normal for baby to start experiencing some head compression, and that will be reflected in their heart tones. So we'll see their heart rate drop slightly, but as the contraction lets up, their heart rate should come right back. A baby that's not coping well, it might take them a little longer for their heart rate to come back up. And so then we want to start, that's just something we're going to notice, and then start to see, are there other signs from baby that we're not coping well as things go on. Sometimes it's a positional issue with mom. Like, we need to find a different position. Maybe baby's like got their cord pinned somewhere funny, There's lots of little things you can try. But ultimately, if we're not getting great feedback from baby, then we shouldn't be having a baby at home. We need to go to the hospital. It's not necessarily an emergency. I prefer to transfer long before there's an emergency. So there's never an emergency.
So yeah, Christine's talking about the at-home births, and it got me thinking about underwater births and how I've just had these images in my brain of people with these like inflatable pools or like baths that they have like specifically for birthing that are like deep, so you can like sit down in it. So I didn't really know much about it, just other than the image that I had in my head. So I wanted to ask her some questions.
And you do.
And I do. Do you know anything about like underwater births?
Yes.
This is random. Have you done any?
We'll bring a tub or a pool and set it up and get all that stuff going. I had both of my babies in the water.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. They were both very, very peaceful. Neither of my babies really cried very much. The transition is just really smooth for them. Wow. But there's a ton of benefits for the birthing person too. So when it comes to a water birth, you get the most benefit if you were in the water for at least 30 minutes. So if things are happening really, really quickly, and we don't know if you're going to get the full 30 minutes, we can get you in the tub, but you may not get the full benefits. But most of the time, get the tub filled and get people in there. It helps with reducing the likelihood of tearing. If you're in the water for like 30 minutes or more, you are less likely to tear because that tissue is like hydrated and like supple and stretchy.
Yeah.
So, but it is a huge pain reducer. There's other benefits, but those benefits kind of wear off after about 2 hours.
Yeah. So, it's like nothing really helps after that. Is it warm water?
Yeah. We got to have it warm. Okay. I like to have right around 100, maybe. Yeah, right around 100 degrees. So at this point, I don't even use the thermometer anymore. I just it's like bath water, basically, like a nice, because we got to think like this little baby needs to be born into warm water.
Yeah.
Because then they'll struggle with breathing and it's a whole mess. So babies do not do well when they're cold. So we definitely want to make sure that they're staying warm.
So do you have to is there an ideal time during the birth, or do you go in and out of the bath? Like, how does it work? Like when?
Yeah, I like to get people out of the tub. I don't know that they like me to get them out of the tub. But the truth is, your movement is pretty limited, even in the bigger birth pools. Sometimes the pool will slow your labor down. And if we're trying to have this baby, then we're going to have to get out of the tub. Fun fact about the pools, when you are not in active labor, if you get in the water, your contractions will go away.
What?
Usually. Yeah. So if you're not in active labor, so active labor is 6 centimeters or more.
Oh, okay.
If you're not in labor, then chances are a hot shower or a hot bath will quiet your contractions down. And I love using that as a tool to gauge whether or not, we should come to your birth.
Yeah.
Are you really in labor, or do we need to get another good night's rest? So I usually we'll hop in the shower and call me in an hour and let me know how things are going, and sometimes they're like, oh yeah, they went away.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then they get a good night's sleep. I'm like, excellent, great. Really work hard at getting another, like your baby will be born, but go ahead and get a night's rest. And we'll try again. We'll see what happens tomorrow, right? I love home birth because I get to be really patient with people. We're not sitting there like putting people on a clock, inducing people just because they're 39 weeks. We get to really like let the body do its thing. Mm-hmm. So ideally, you get in the tub and your contractions will keep rolling along if you're in active labor. But I had a client recently and that didn't happen. She was in active labor, like well above 6 centimeters in dilation, and still her contractions were like petering out in the pool. So she planned this whole water birth and ultimately like it wasn't really in the cards for her.
What's the longest labor that you attended?
Oh my God, I think it was just this one. It was 4 days.
4 days?
4 days. I was awake for 4 days, and so was the person in labor. We got some sleep here and there. I know. I'm like, I'm gonna take a nice long nap tonight. Yeah. We really try to take care of ourselves. We'll sleep in shifts after we get so far into a birth, because there does need to be somebody monitoring the baby every 30 minutes. So we'll sleep in shifts. And as far as the person in labor, we will utilize different therapeutic rest options to help them get good sleep too. So for example, at home, that can be a glass of wine or a dose of Benadryl. And usually those one or the other will quiet down contractions enough that the person can get some really good sleep, like 4 hours, 2 hours of sleep is about all your labor at home. But sometimes that is what you need to make it over the hump and have your baby.
So apparently you can just have a glass of wine while you're in labor.
Or some Benadryl.
You
can get a little schwasty.
You know what? I would have a glass of wine.
Yeah.
If I was in labor, I'd be like, you know what? This baby is 9 months old at this point. They can have a glass of wine.
They can handle it. If I'm going through this, the baby is going to be fine.
Yeah.
And I'll be fine. If I'm fine, the baby's fine, as Christine says.
I trust Christine.
Yeah.
If she tells me you need a glass of wine, I'm not going to argue.
I'll take it.
I'm not going to argue with her.
I'm not either. I'm going to be like, all right, if you say so.
If you say so, Christine.
All right.
Red or white, baby.
Exactly.
I have a question about placentas. Placentas. Do you find, like, do people do things with the placenta more than they don't in your experience? Like, have you ever had to save a placenta for someone or like?
Yeah, I have one in a dehydrator in my basement right now.
Oh, shit. So you
dehydrate it?
And then
I encapsulate placentas for clients.
Okay.
There's a lot of benefits, and like most mammals consume their placentas. I think like there's only really like a handful of mammals that don't. And I don't know. I have this farm, and I had sheep and cows and all that, and they all ate their placentas. And I'm like, well, if I have a client who wants to do that, I'm not going to stop them.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we're not just like raw eating our placentas. But do people, what are the different ways you can do that? So I know like the capsules, and then what else do people do?
Hey, Allie. How you been?
Not so great. I've been having some rough days. I'm not able to focus. I'm always tired and depressed. I also need to lose weight.
Did you know that you're not thoroughly nourished unless you have a daily dose of placenta?
Low iron?
Placenta.
No energy?
Placenta.
Falling and you can't get up?
Placenta.
But Kirsten, how can I get a placenta?
Of all the placenta products on the market, I personally love drinking fresh-pressed organic Juicenta. Juicenta changed my life, and it can change yours too. Each placenta is intricately selected and goes through a vigorous quality analysis before it is passed on to Juicenta Labs, LLC. At Juicenta Labs, LLC, the placenta goes under a combustion process to eliminate any lingering bacteria present. It's then run through a meat grinder to soften up the fleshy bits before undergoing centrifugal juicing. We're left with a smooth, inviting juice that invigorates all your taste buds and nerve receptors. It doesn't taste like blood or flesh or metal at all. It's yummy, actually.
But Kirsten, does drinking Juicenta make me a cannibal?
No! The placenta is a temporary human product that will be discarded after the baby extraction process. So why not eat it? Here, I have some in my pocket. Try it now.
Wow!
Sleepy?
Juicenta!
Canker sores?
Juicenta!
Chronic pain?
Juicenta!
Pimples?
Juicenta!
Bad breakup?
Juicenta!
Get your Juicenta now. We have a promo code for 20% off. Just type in Juicenta. Thank you so much.
Juicenta.com/thank you so much to get your 20% off discount today.
Ta-ta!
People will take like a chunk of their placenta and put it in a raw dog it right into a smoothie.
Oh!
Like an inch cube, and just pop it in a smoothie and drink the smoothie, and then they got it. There's gonna be some strong opinions about that in the medical community. Just about consuming blood products.
Yeah.
There's some things to pay attention to, like, is this person Hep B positive? Do they have strep B? Like, we want to know before we go doing that.
Yeah.
So we want to refer back to our prenatal blood panel. But for the most part, people are encapsulating them, which is like a really safe way to consume them.
Yeah.
When I prepare them, like, I can't speak for everybody, but when I prepare a placenta for consumption, it goes in my dehydrator, which is a commercial grade stainless steel beast of a dehydrator that is literally for making beef jerky. So it's hydrating it at a temperature that is safe for like meat products. So we're killing pathogens as it's dehydrating it. And then I buy a coffee grinder, and it gets like put into the coffee grinder. Like, I've sliced it thin, put it in the dehydrator. Now it's coming out, looks just like beef jerky, except it's instead of chewy, it's super crispy. And because I slice it super thin, because I don't want it, I need it to be a powder, not chewy. Nobody's gonna be doing that. So and then I put it in a coffee grinder and grind it up and put it, and then I have like a little encapsulator thing. Every time I get a placenta, I like clean it up, take pictures, and document the whole thing for the family, because in other cultures the placenta was considered like the baby's twin or like their protector. Because they're both born on the same day.
Yeah.
And it's kept them fed and safe and nourished this whole time. So I love to just let people get a really good look at their placentas. I do placenta tours at the birth, whether we're at home or the birth center or the hospital. I always take, 5 minutes, and I'm like, look, this is where your baby was.
Look.
Yes.
My cousin was telling me how when she gave birth, they asked if I wanted to see the placenta, and I was like, no, get it away from me.
Some people are scared of it.
Some people are scared of it.
That definitely, you'll definitely have. I think I've had maybe like 2 people who are like, no, I do not want to see it. But most people, in my experience, are so curious.
I want to see
it. And
it.
they do. I had a client whose baby was diagnosed with IUGR, which is intrauterine growth restriction. And that's usually due to the placenta just not doing its job properly. So we were all really curious to see this placenta when it came out. She had her baby back and everything, and we got to take a big, long look at it. And it turned out it was a very small placenta. It made sense if her baby wasn't able to grow. There's also like quite a bit of calcification in it, and basically it's like calcium buildup in the placenta, and it turns to like actual stones, little calcium stones. It feels like there's sand inside the placenta.
Whoa.
And it just blocks the performance of the placenta. It's not able to provide adequate blood supply, and so then baby's not growing properly, and yada yada. Baby was fine, everyone's fine, but it was just really interesting to be like, oh my gosh, look, it really was the placenta.
Yeah, this is why
this happened.
So it was just really like it was great for the client to see that and experience that, because then they could be like, okay, it's not that my body isn't a safe place to grow the baby, it is my partner's fault.
Yeah. Okay.
It's his.
Like, it's all your fault. This is why our baby
that's
couldn't
your
grow.
DNA.
Yeah.
So that's not on me.
So what are the health benefits of consuming a placenta?
That's what I was gonna ask.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did someone just ask about the health benefits of the placenta?
Well, let's tell you right now. Heart murmur?
Juicenta!
Hemorrhoid?
Juicenta!
Gout?
Juicenta! Bubonic plague?
Juicenta.
Now, back to your production.
Well, it sounds like it's like both spiritual and kind of like holistic, and then kind of health,
like nutritious.
Well, you lose a lot of blood during birth, like during birth. Like even when everything goes well, you can lose like 300 cc's of blood or more. Mm-hmm. You know, a hemorrhage is 500. I've been to birth where somebody might lose 700, 750, 800, 1,000. You know, and that's a lot.
Yeah.
Now you have your body is converting from growing a baby. Now it's going to make milk. It's going to still be pulling nutrients out of your blood supply, but now you've got less blood supply. Mm-hmm. You're expected to recover from this whole experience, and you still continue to lose blood for at least 6 weeks postpartum. Oh. So you're still going to be losing blood on top of what you lost during labor.
Yeah.
So the first thing is that you get your iron. You get a big dose of placenta. And then there's lots of little other nutrients here and there that can be found in the placenta. Some folks really want to consume their placenta because they feel that it will help them. They're gone cold turkey, right?
Yeah.
Like within a few days, they are gone from your system. You've burnt them all up, and you are just cold turkey going through this huge transformation. In your mind. Your brain, first of all, is getting completely rewired now that you witnessed your baby. So there's huge change going on there. And on top of that, there's like a hurricane of hormonal changes happening. And so for some people, they really feel like they're consuming their placenta helped ease that transition, that they weren't really going cold turkey. But, you know, I don't know how much evidence there is to support that, but I do believe people that they're like, oh, consuming my placenta like save my mental health.
Yeah, and even if it's one of those placebo effect, like it's still helping them. So either way, I feel like
it's good.
It's good.
I'm like, you're still getting the nutrients at the very least.
At the very least.
Yeah, and I tried to consume mine. I tried to consume my placenta. I, had it encapsulated with my first pregnancy. My nausea, I was extremely nauseous. And we can go ahead and blame that on my partner, my then partner.
Yeah.
And daggone genetics. So I don't know, I don't know if that was it. Like now I'm consuming this placenta that existed in my depressed body.
Yeah.
But after I had my baby, it was like a light switch was flipped. It was like that placenta was gone and I was 100% myself. I was this happy, like glowing part of mother. And then I, a week later was given my placenta to encapsulate it and I started taking it and I had to quit after like 3 days because I was a wreck emotionally.
Really?
And yeah, and I never got my second placenta encapsulated. I have it. It's in my freezer. Free on it or something, but I didn't consume anything after that. I still have the capsules. I'm just gonna, honor that placenta in a different way. I'm probably gonna I don't know. I'm gonna plant trees eventually.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's
like potpourri or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You could there's aren't there spells you can do under the moon?
Yeah.
That's true. I have had clients who do moon water. I'm sure there's moon. I don't know. See, that's out of my.
Yeah, I don't know.
Some rituals that you can do.
Yeah.
I just nod. I'm like, yes, go ahead, do whatever you want to do.
Whatever makes you happy.
That's right.
Is there something you wish you knew before you got pregnant the first time? Or during your pregnancy or before giving birth?
Oh, that's toughy. I think what I'm learning now about the nervous system and its role and how we interact with our children and our partners and our extended family and our friend circles and all of that is really interesting. And I think, I mean, I wouldn't go back and change anything about either of my pregnancies. I wish I wasn't as nauseous as I was, but it would have been interesting. Like, I wonder, being so aware of like my own nervous system and, you know, what it felt like to be in fight or flight or in collapse and all of that, and like be able to pinpoint that and take better care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
I just recently, like in the last 2 years, finally moved out of constant fight or flight, and I had been existing in it for years, as far as I know. And so I'm like a completely different person now because I am.
How'd you
like,
do that?
I went to therapy.
There you go.
Therapy.
Therapy works.
Gosh, I went to see an EMDR therapist. I'm still seeing her. So I have learned so much about the nervous system. I've actually started to incorporate it into my childbirth ed classes because I want to bring awareness to, you know, the power that we have within ourselves to like control our state of mind. Is really hard. But I mean, just a few months ago, I was out of birth. You know, they took my childbirth ed class. We talked about the nervous system and like polyvagal theory, right? It's this ladder. At the top of the ladder is safe and social. That's where we can like laugh and be silly and we feel good. You know, our thoughts are positive, relatively positive about our outlook on life. The next step down is fight or flight. That's when we get angry. That's when we, you know, I don't know. There's a whole list of things. But that's when a lot of people have arguments. Like if you have an argument with your partner that's just like going in circles and there's no resolution, chances are you're both in fight or flight and you're not able to hear each other, right? Your prefrontal cortex is offline. Your thinking part of your brain is not showing up to the conversation and you're just having this fearful conversation in a circle. So like being able to educate my clients on that. And then collapse is like depression, numbness, those really low feeling. That's when you start to have a lot of like thoughts like, I'm not good enough. I'll never be good at this. Those really dark thoughts. And like when we combine that with postpartum, it can be like the perfect storm for a disaster. So I really like to educate my clients ahead of time on all of this and really bring awareness to mood disorders and stuff so that they are really prepared as much as possible so that, you know, if somebody does turn out to have a mood disorder postpartum, hopefully themselves or their partner or their extended family can help catch it and get them the support that they need.
This part about the nervous system was really interesting to me because actually I was first introduced through TikTok about the relationship between the mind and the body. Mind, body, almost like yoga, but more like movement oriented that just help like regulate your nervous system. But I got this book that I've been reading called The Body Keeps the Score, and it's brain, mind, and body in the healing of trauma.
Wow.
And right
Very
now
on brand.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I want to learn more about how we can like use our bodies and like make our bodies feel more comfortable in this space. To help our brains work better.
Well, I wonder if this book tells us like what you can do to make that happen, because I do think that our brain has a lot of power, like more than we know, and it can control that fight or flight, or we can use certain mechanisms that bring us back from that fight or flight mode, like just because our brain can do that, like it's powerful.
Yeah, to like ground us. But yeah, I think that's like part of the somatic exercises is to like grounding exercises to like bring you back into reality, and this is not a emergency situation.
So Christine was talking about how everyone in the household can feel postpartum depression. So if your grandparents live with you, if your mom lives with you, whoever is there experiencing a new baby, the mom, like all that stuff, they also can experience postpartum depression. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. And so she talks about it a little more.
Yeah, I mean, like, think about it. Like, if you go through some enormous life-changing experience, there's no going back.
Yeah.
Even if your birth experience goes really well, and it's like this beautiful, you gave birth next to a creek and a baby deer and shit. Like, it's like the perfect, dreamy, like, peaceful experience. Or you had like the ever elusive orgasmic birth. Like, did our bodies never forget?
It's like it's like you went through a trauma, you know?
Right. It's like, then we start asking ourselves, like, what is a trauma? What is a traumatic experience? Like, physically for your body? Hell yeah, that was a traumatic experience.
Yeah.
You just pushed a 10-centimeter head through like a buttonhole in your pelvic floor.
Yeah,
a buttonhole.
You may or may not have like had to have your perineum stitched closed, or maybe you have C-section. You know, like, even when everything goes well, there's like 90% of people who give birth have pelvic floor issues afterwards. Like, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And at the very least, our body has gone through something very traumatic. Now, emotionally, mentally, that's a whole nother ball game. You know, we kind of like show up to birth with our own baggage. Like, if you have a previous history of trauma, it's definitely going to affect your birth. And how you perceive your birth experience and stuff. Like, oh my goodness, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
Fun fact, originally we were going to only talk about breast milk in this episode.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of interesting things about breast milk, but once we started going in, we were more interested in the whole birthing process as a whole.
Yeah, and pregnancy and everything that goes into it. So we changed it and expanded it, but we decided to go ahead and ask Christine about
breast milk.
Breast milk.
Yeah. How important is it to use breast milk over formula, or is it just whatever happens? What are the benefits? Do you have any?
Yeah. Like, I guess and maybe like your personal experience, like.
Well, when it comes to supporting clients, I am 100% in support of whatever they want. There's, oh my goodness, there's so much shame out there already about our bodies and what they're capable of or what they look like and all of that. I never want to create shame about somebody's body being able to feed their babies.
Yeah.
Because a big piece of a successful breastfeeding experience is support. It's literally somebody standing with you while you're nursing and saying, yeah, this is normal. This is exactly what it's supposed to look like. And it's really hard. It's not, it does happen sometimes that it's easy and simple and straightforward for people. But, if you've never had a baby before, your baby's never breastfed before. So it's like the blind leading the blind.
Yeah.
We are communal creatures. We are meant to grow up in community. We are meant to have witnessed breastfeeding take place throughout our entire lives. Our sisters, mothers, aunts, and cousins, and all that. We're not supposed to be experiencing breastfeeding for the first time when we breastfeed our own baby, right? But that's often the case, at least here in the United States. And so it's an uphill battle. And then you tack on poor maternal care. Like, it's outrageous that we're not taking care of people until they're 6 weeks postpartum. You hire a home birth midwife, they literally come to your home like 6 times. But if you're just, going through the hospital to get your care, you don't see anyone until you're 6 weeks postpartum. And they really just want to know, like, has your bleeding stopped? Okay, it has. Great. You can have sex. And do you feel like killing yourself? Oh, okay. You don't? Okay, great. Awesome. See you never.
Wow.
And that's it. Appointments are so short. I literally had a client who got like a suicidal survey from her OB's office.
Whoa.
Like, it wasn't even like contact her with a living, breathing human being. It was just like, do you feel like dying?
Oh my God.
Like, how cold?
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot that's taking place postpartum. And, when you start to think about how many people have traumatic birth experiences and then go home and then don't have support because their partner can't stay home. We don't have any parental leave rights here in the United States.
Yeah.
And maternal rights are so poor, like outrageously poor, that it really sets up people for failure when it comes to breastfeeding. So I think it's the most important thing is to have a fed baby, right? Formula grows a baby.
Yeah.
Obviously, breast milk is going to be like nutritionally the best, but it's just not that straightforward.
Yeah, I actually wasn't able to drink breast milk as a baby because it made my stomach messed up. Like yeah, so I had to get the dairy-free formula, which was like the most expensive one out there. But it's funny because I'm very lactose intolerant today. And I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. Like my parents were like, oh, you can't have breast milk because it's messing with you. But then here, you're 3 years old. Here, have a whole glass of milk and just forget that ever happened. But
yeah, it's interesting. Like babies really can be lactose intolerant, like to cow's milk. Like, so for example, if the nursing person is consuming milk products, there's a chance that your baby could develop a rash or be very colicky or very gassy. Like it can totally mess up. I've known people who've had to stop consuming dairy while they're nursing because their baby was having a reaction to it.
Wow.
I recently met somebody whose baby was like allergic to the proteins in their milk. Like it wasn't lactose intolerant. It was like a legitimate, their baby was allergic to their milk.
That's crazy.
Like it is possible to have these really unique complications that on top of everything else make breastfeeding like not an option, right? Yeah. And ultimately we want to be supporting the mental health of the nursing person. Yeah. And so I'm like, if this is too much or if it's eventually becomes too much, like maybe in the beginning you're like, yes, I can pump, I can do all these things. But in like maybe 2 months from now, you're like, oh my God, pumping around the clock is killing me. I don't think I can do this. You know, that's when we need to check in and be like, okay, well, let's come up with plan B. Maybe plan B is supplementing with formula. So you're nursing some, pumping some, and feeding with formula some. And for other people, like their lives may genuinely be too stressful for their bodies to even produce milk. I have met somebody recently and they were going like literally their life was upside down. And it really affected their milk production. And ultimately they're like, you know what? Formula. Yeah. Formula is going to keep my baby alive. And it does, because that's what it's. So there's definitely pros and cons. And I'm never going to hate on somebody for choosing formula because, you know, we're all just trying to do our best as parents. And we ultimately can't know what the lived experience of somebody else is. I can't say whether not somebody should breastfeed. I had a client once who had a history of sexual trauma, and that made it impossible for her to breastfeed because it was very triggering for her. Yeah. I had a client once who experienced this letdown. So when you have a letdown with your milk, typically you don't feel anything at all, or you feel like a pins and needles sensation as the milk like rushes through and, you know, is nursed and all of that. But for some people, they can experience nausea. Other people will have like this deep sense of hopelessness wash over them.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, you know, babies get fed every 2 hours around the clock for many, many months on end. So if you're feeling extreme nausea every 2 hours, you're likely not going to want to eat. You know what I mean? So then there's so many pieces of this. And then I had a client who got severely, like, super low mentally and hopeless, like this deep sense of hopelessness every time she nursed. And she's like, I feel like I'm making this up, but this is what I'm experiencing. And I'm like, no, that's so totally real. It's all hormones.
That's crazy.
You know, and usually it doesn't go on for more than 6 weeks, but that's a long time when somebody's literally living like hour to hour with a newborn.
Yeah.
You know,
that is
like
a long time.
Yeah, we got to weigh our options and like kind of consider the whole picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been so informative.
I know. I love it.
Oh my goodness. This has been super fun. I could talk for like hours and hours and hours.
You're a wealth of knowledge. Like,
yeah, you really are.
We don't know anything. We're like pregnancy birthing dummies. So this has
we've
been
never
very
had
good for
children.
us.
You know? Like, yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking time and giving us some interesting stories and information.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. It was good talking to you.
Well, there you have it, guys.
All about birth.
Now you know everything that you need to know about the birthing process. Alternative
options, birthing options.
Mm-hmm.
That was Christine. She is a doula and childbirth educator. She teaches virtual pregnancy classes online, so anyone can go to her. She's a safe space for the LGBTQ community,
which we love.
Love that. And her Instagram is Christine_birthworker. And if you go to her Instagram, she has a link in her bio for those classes. So definitely check her out if that is something you're going to need soon.
Also, follow us.
I
can't imagine why you wouldn't be, but
at this point,
I know. Come on, guys. Thank you so much, Pod, at Instagram and on Instagram. And you can also email us. Thank you so much, pod@gmail.com. You can tweet us, although
we don't know what's going on with this Twitter situation. Are we on Thread? Are we on Spill? Where are we going? Are we staying on Twitter?
But if you're staying on Twitter, you can find us
at TYSM Podcast.
And that's all, folks. Tune in next week for the follow-up. We got some more interviews for you on the same topic. It's going to be very exciting, very fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Love you. Bye. Mwah.
Mwah.
Peace out.